Hi, and welcome to Deep Leadership. I'm your host, John Rennie. The purpose of the show is to build a world with better bosses, and we do that by learning from the greatest minds in leadership today. Whether you're new to leadership or a seasoned pro, you'll get practical insights to help you lead with confidence. Today's episode is brought to you by the Salty Sailor Coffee Company, Cadre of Men, and Farrow Skincare. Check out the show notes for links to our sponsors and all of my books. Today, we're talking about scaling a small business, and my guest is Randy Carr. Randy is the CEO of World Emblem, the largest patch, emblem, and badge producer in the world. We sat down and talked about his unique leadership experiences from overcoming early struggles and self-doubt to growing his company into a global leader. Randy shares how he persevered through resilience, through strategic decisions, and a focus on bringing in the right people at the right time to build this business. This episode offers a unique deep dive into the challenges and triumphs of scaling a small business into an industry powerhouse. Every leader can benefit from hearing Randy's story. So, are you ready to dive in? Let's get started. Welcome to the Deep Leadership Podcast. Today I'm joined by Randy Carr. Randy is the CEO of World Emblem, the largest patch, emblem, and badge producer in the world. World Emblem makes patches and emblems for industry leaders like New Era, Cintas, Vestis, Levi, RTIC, Ellis, and many others. They have more than 1,200 dedicated employees worldwide that produce over 1 million pieces a day in the US, Mexico, Canada, Europe, and Asia. And I'm excited to have him on the show to learn from his unique leadership experience. So, Randy, welcome to the show.
John, thanks. Happy to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to meet you. Honor to have you on the show. First of all, tell us a little bit about World Emblem. What do you guys do?
Yeah, so World Emblem is a family-owned business. We have, like you said, 1,200 employees uh, in Mexico, Canada, the States, and Europe. Um, and we manufacture badges, labels, patches, emblems for everything from the U.S. military um, to any ad specialty company, to sports teams, to law enforcement officers, to UPS and FedEx. So
Yeah.
any emblem or badge that goes on those garments more than likely came from us.
And the company's been around a while, right?
35 years. Yeah, 35 years. But my father had a company that went up and then went out of business in 1989. And my brother, my father, and I restarted the company in Medley, Florida. And he sadly passed in 2000. And we just continued to grow it after it passed.
Wow. So what's it like? I mean, you have this family-owned business, as you mentioned, started off small, and then sort of as you've taken the helm of this business, you've taken it and grown it to the size it is. So tell us a little bit about what that was like, taking this a small business and making it to like the world's largest emblem company.
I don't, I could, what I can tell you is that is transparently it was terrible in the very beginning.
Mm.
And yeah, for the first couple of years, it was, do I really want to do this? Is this something that like is going to even feed like what I'm trying to do? Which at the time I didn't have a family or anything. My wife was my girlfriend. Um, so you're trying to navigate all that. And it's kind of after your family loses everything. So you have that fear that you carry forward with you the entire time. And to this day, it's still kind of gnaws at me.
Mm.
But I think most of it was, making a lot of mistakes and making, I would say, one less mistake, doing one more thing right than the nine things we did wrong. So, it's a lot of luck, a lot of good customers, a lot of resilience. Um, but we're just fortunate to have stuck with the right business model at the time, and fortunate to have surrounded ourselves with a lot of good people throughout the years. Um, you could ask every individual question, and I think we have inflection points throughout the journey. Whether it was deciding to open a maquiladora in Mexico or deciding to move our factory to Atlanta, um, and we made the bigger decisions were right, but the little decisions along the way to get to these points There were thousands of mistakes and thousands of areas we lost money. And fortunately, again, like I said, we stuck with it, and none of them were the death nail or the shoe dropping on the throat. Although every one of them probably seemed like it.
Hmm. How critical were you mentioned people? How critical were people to your ability to to grow and take advantage of market opportunities?
I think it's the only thing that ever really mattered. Um, yeah. And again, like we probably had 2 or 3 thousand people pass through the doors. I would even say arguably even more than that. But um, and I think every one of them was important, but it was just as important to it's the right people that matter. And clearly, like this is kind of what everybody says, but it's kind of understanding having the right person at the right time in the right position. Because even if I hired the smartest person in the world, if the business wasn't ready for that person, um, it would be it would end with the same results, which is just a bad fit for where the business is trying to go at that point in time. Um, when you have a small business that's doing, let's say, 10 or $15 million a year, and you have somebody that comes into the business that has a $500 million background or mentality, they could spend you out of existence. And the opposite's true, right? So, if you're doing $50 million and you have somebody that comes in with a $5 million mentality, they'll underspend you to the point where your infrastructure can't scale. So, a lot of it, clearly there's the cultural thing to make sure that they have the right cultural fit to the business, but a lot of it is getting the right person to fit at the timing. Um, I think at this point where we are in our life cycle, we have our core values really set. We sort of know what roles or responsibilities we want the individuals to play when we bring them into the business. But none of this was established when we were much smaller. And so, um, I remember talking to people, and I'll say the word coaches loosely, and asking like, what is a CEO supposed to do?
Hmm.
Because I had no idea, and all I would do is pull out a book and read it, but it never really told you um, the difference between a professional manager and an entrepreneur. And through the stages of the business, through these iterative stages, um, the job really changes. So, but everything is getting the right person at the right time.
Yeah, yeah. How would you describe the culture of the company and how has it evolved as you've gone from sort of small to bigger like you are today? Because I think it's interesting to people because the founder's intent when a smaller company I have a manufacturing company I started 9 years ago. I'm still there, right? So the culture is me, and my but as you get bigger and bigger, that's harder to hold on to that culture. So can you tell us a little bit about the culture and how it's changed or evolved as you've grown?
Well, I'll just tell you a quick story and then I'll answer the question.
Yeah.
Um, so when my father passed away, he had the business that went under, and I kept asking him, "Hey, like, why did the business go under?" And he was so upset about it that he would never really answer the question. Um, following that, I said, I'm going to write a chronological history of the business and just journal this. To this day, I still have my managers every year send me a story that relates to the core values of the business. So now I have this book, like uh, maybe 300 or 400 pages thick of stories that built the business, right? The stories are how we came up with our core values, and the stories are what established the culture. Um, so the answer is the culture is made up of all the people that have started and worked there to where we are today, and the behaviors and the characteristics of the company. So um, I'm an intense guy. Um, my brother's an intense guy. Most of the people that work there are ex athletes in one way, shape, or form. Maybe not at a collegiate or professional level, but we've engaged in sports. Um, we have a Northeast kind of swagger. So the culture is one of intensity
Yeah.
um, and competitive urgency. Our business model is, we do close to 1 million emblems a day. Everything comes in the morning and we're shipping things that day or the next day or the day after. In one piece minimums and everything's custom. So it's a very high paced, it's a very fast moving business. And the culture is exactly the same as it was in the beginning, which is a very high level of intensity. But we have our position, which is we want to win every game we play, and the job is to field to put the best players on the field for the game we're trying to play today. And it, it, we've been accused of it being a little of a boys' club. Some of the so my I have a couple of females on the leadership team, and it's not so much the boys' club, but it is that kind of swagger. So
Yeah, but again, it's a high level of urgency, a high level of intensity, but it's needed in that kind of a business, as you mentioned. If you're having a one piece minimum,
right,
you're doing changeovers quickly, you're trying to get this many units out. It's a high speed operation. So, and I think that if you look at the most successful companies, they have a highly disciplined culture, right? So
it's
and I think I sort of associate well with being competitive. Like I'm extremely competitive guy, and so is my team, in my
right.
company. So we're very intense and very competitive, and so I think and I'm from the Northeast, so so I sort of
Well,
sense a little bit of I understand it, and I get what you're talking
yeah.
about. Yeah.
Again, it is at high pace, but we also have a very systematic way of running the business. I mean, we run the Toyota production system, which is like a lean manufacturing model. We've been
Mhm.
doing it for many years. So it's very systematic and it's very precise. We're very KPI driven, so um, it's not chaotic by any means. Um, it's just fast.
Yeah, yeah. One of the things that I when I talk to a lot of entrepreneurs, one of the problems they have with growing is they have a hard time letting go. So you start off, maybe you make the best pizza in the world, or maybe you cut hair, or maybe you have some sort of skill set, like software or whatever, and you start off doing that. But I think a lot of entrepreneurs have a hard time letting go of the thing that they're good at, and bringing in professionals and bringing in other people that can sort of help that person grow. Did you have that at all in this journey where you felt like you had to hold on to certain things, or were the things that you
Still
held
have it.
on too long? Or
Yes, the answer is yes, and I still have it
yeah.
in a lot of ways. It, it, so there's a couple of answers to this. So the first thing I'll tell you is when we develop a system, the systematic way of running the department, the business, it's very easy for me to back off because I have confidence that the system is repeatable. I'm getting repeatable, consistent results out of that area of the business, and there's a systematic way to develop people and systematic way to develop the processes. And once we have a KPI base, we know it's being measured. I really don't have to lean in that area. It's
Mm,
when we don't have that stuff. And there's certain areas of the business that simply don't have it. Um, or I have the wrong person in the role. And either they're pulling me in or they're not getting the results. And my fear of the change, my fear of making a change to the person or the job will cause me to drop two levels below into their area. And that's just bad leadership from me. Um, so, um, so the answer is it's kind of a mixed bag.
mm,
And again, it's through the cycles, through the iterative cycles, that those changes are always necessary. But the reality is when you have a systematic way and you have confidence that people are doing what they're supposed to do, there's very little reason to have to go into that area and undermine the leadership team you have. So when I have to do it, it's always my fault for either not having a good system there or having the wrong person in the job. So
mm. So one of your ways that you've been successful is through a lot of new technology, state of the art equipment, and to be able to get the volumes that you have. Um, those are risks. Taking a big risk, investing in
yeah,
equipment and what have you. What was the thought process in saying we have to automate, we have to bring in state of the art equipment, if we want to take it to the next level? And was it you're taking a big chance, or was there a high level of confidence that this was going to be the next step in the evolution of the company?
again, I think it's both. I think
Mm,
that with technology, there's always a risk. Uh, but I also philosophically believe in creative destruction and destroying our own business model to better it. So I'd rather us destroy our own business than someone else do it. Um, you know, now where I am as opposed to years ago. So now where I am, it's a little easier for me to say we're going to get the ROI in this or we're not doing it. And I know how to measure it. But before it was just shots in the dark.
Mm.
You just knew kind of instinctually that if we could get software to do X, Y, and Z and pull labor out of the role, the ROI was there. So a
Yeah.
lot of that was instinct based, or we just knew that getting people to move to the internet made good sense. It just so but when we were doing the stuff we were doing in the early 2000s, building e-com platform and going to the cloud, which really wasn't the cloud, but it was like uh, server data centers kind of in the very, very beginning. No one was doing this stuff, but we were very early adopters of all this stuff. It was expensive. It was plagued with a lot of problems, which was very stressful. Um, but obviously it's mainstream now. So, but what we've been doing 20 years for 20 years, people are just they're 5, 6, 7 years into it. So, um, clearly we were right about a lot of it. But like I said early in this discussion, we were wrong about a lot too. So we're pumping tons of money into AI right now. Um, and we know what we want our ROI to be. Um, but we still haven't seen those results. So we're still, every day we gravitate to whether we're throwing money in the garbage or not. I don't think we are, but my CFO does. So,
Yeah.
and that's
Yeah.
the right kind of CFO. That's what I want. I want him on my back telling me, hey, like, are you sure you feel good? Show me why you still think this. Give me the metrics behind it. So,
Yeah, interesting. Just you saying that gives me a little sense of, peek inside the company, which is you want people, you don't want yes men. You want people that are going to challenge you. And I think the best organizations have a strong leadership team that's willing to step up and say when they have concerns about something. It sounds like you have a team of that are willing to stand
yeah,
up when they
I
feel
most
something's
certainly do.
wrong. Yeah,
I mean, I had a
yeah.
conversation with my COO today, uh, and we're having an area in a issue in a certain area of the business, and the conversation was like, yeah, what I said to him is like, you need to push me harder because these are the things that I don't feel good about,
Mm.
and in my heart I know what the right thing to do is, but I'll sit on it for too long. So my expectation is for you to hammer me to make sure that we're making the changes fast enough. So,
Yeah.
um, in most of the roles, I do have strong personalities, but they're very role-based positions. I've making sure the CIO is one character, the COO is a different characteristics with different personalities. We certainly don't want the same, we don't need 8 people with the exact same personalities. You need diversified skill sets with diversified backgrounds that specialize in the roles of the area that they're trying to do using the management system that we have in place with strong KPIs and strong standards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Again, it's proven out to be the most successful way to run a business. So it
We
sounds like
think so.
you've done a great job there.
Thank you.
One of the things I've read about was the idea that you have this commitment towards building one new innovative product every year that's going to have a future revenue stream. Can you tell us a little bit about that and kind of the mindset behind that?
Yeah, so Cameron Harold, he's a Canadian business person, author, a thought leader. He had this philosophy of vivid vision, right? So he says, sit down and write it out in a way that you're in your mind's eye. You can fast forward 3 years and paint this picture. And one of the things is, um, so we were doing this, I don't know, maybe for a decade now. But again, this was getting it on paper, right? So it's getting it on paper. We were always doing it. We just didn't have we didn't put words to tell the story. But the concept is at this point is to do one product every year that'll do $20 million in 10 years, right? So, and really what it comes down to is making sure that we continually work to break the business model. So we have an R&D department and their entire role is to basically develop stuff, either develop the IP portfolio, so we can patent or trademark stuff, or just reinvent the business. So it's not we don't develop just one thing. We develop a bunch of stuff. We're always messing with tinkering with things, and but inevitably we always end up with something every year. Now, is every year this product's going to do that revenue or explode? No. But we've landed on a lot of things that we've patented, and that it far exceeded what we thought it was going to do. And the other thing it does is allows us to kind of learn, um, and not just learn on the product side, but learn on the market base too. We've launched products that have pulled us completely into different spaces that we never thought we would go into because the demographic of the customer that bought this product also bought all the other products that we sold. And these are just sort of happy coincidences that we've learned and landed on.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting. Some people might hear your story and say, "Well, these guys are already super successful. Why, and why, it'd be easy to rest on your laurels and sort of kick your feet up and enjoy all your success." It doesn't seem like that's an option to you.
Look, every day it's another challenge.
Yeah,
You know, today alone we have a maquiladora in Mexico, and it's 8 o'clock at night where I'm at, and we're we're planning on 25% tariffs being put in place in 36 hours from now. That's a really big problem. Um, again, like there's this constant gnawing fear that when's the next shoe going to drop, and how do we make sure that it doesn't? So, um, it's it's I think it's Jim Collins that said productive paranoia.
yeah.
He used that and I don't want to use that word because mine's more like a petrified. Just a petrified person, but it is productive paranoia. So, it's always looking out to make sure that uh, uh, we're not, we don't allow ourselves to get comfortable because
Yeah,
there is that nagging fear that what's next.
yeah, yeah.
The problem with that is you don't have gratitude for what you have.
Mm,
So there's this balance of like, and how much is enough? Um, and unfortunately, like in these kinds of businesses with a lot of human beings, everybody wants to continue to grow, and you're either growing or you're dying. And I'm not sure if that's true or not, but I sort of feel that way all the time.
yeah, it's interesting. I'm 9 years into my business startup life, and I thought at some point that would go away. That feeling like it could all fall apart any second, but it sounds like it never goes away. So it sounds like it's
I think
just
it just
that.
depends on who you are. Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
have 20 years of therapy between my psychologist and my YPO forum. Um, and I'm still battling that.
yeah,
The balance between like happiness with where you are and the desire to continue to want to get better.
yeah, yeah. It's interesting. I think a lot of entrepreneurs find themselves in that place as well. Yeah.
I'd be shocked if they did.
Yeah, yeah, it's interesting. So yeah, well, talking to you makes me realize that it's never going to get to where I feel like we've arrived, right?
I don't know. If you do, call me and tell me how you did it, because I have yet, I have yet to do it. I do have moments. I do have moments where I'm thrilled, but I would say the vast majority of times, I'm just looking for the next problem. The risk of that, to be fair, though, is that you can't focus on more than one thing at a time. So if you're only focusing on the problem, then you're missing the opportunities. So much of like I have to slap myself and say like, you know, you got to be looking for the good stuff too.
Yeah, yeah. You're right. I think you're right. It's easy to get to just be so focused on what's next and keeping everything going, and you forget to just look back every once in a while and say, see how far you came,
Yeah,
right?
for
And
sure.
to realize how good, how far you've come in this long journey, especially when you're with a bunch of other people who have been on this journey with you,
Yeah, yeah,
and so absolutely. So one of the things that you've done is, I mean, you have operations in a lot of different places in the world, and so you've actually done some near shoring as well. And so you may tell us a little bit about your thoughts in terms of now, like as you mentioned, tariffs could potentially be a problem with Canada, Mexico, China. So do you find that the fact that you have global operations now, that you can shift a little bit easier, or you can shift things around, or what, how are you handling the changes that are coming about, recent changes?
yeah. How much time do we have left? All right. So,
Yeah,
no, again, like we could talk for 3 hours on this.
yeah,
Look, I could do without the 36-hour window. like the quick. I understand why it's being done because it makes perfect sense. Like they got to stop what they're doing. I get that, but so look, the marketing answer is we have 200,000 square feet in the States. I could move volume, but my customers won't accept that from the
Yeah.
cost that they're paying today.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I have to navigate that, and I don't know how I'm going to do it. We've had 10 days to sort of figure this out. We've been on uh, what we're calling crisis meetings every single day trying to figure this out. The problem is I've cut all our capex for the next foreseeable future because we're all focused on having to pay tariffs.
Yeah.
So now millions of dollars that we were planning on software development and AI projects have been sidelined and scuttled to pay taxes. So the reality is what's going to happen here is that um, the administration that's in there it is unfortunately it doesn't understand or don't care that they're going to tax us out of spending R&D dollars and shoving that into the economy. So, my hope is that it doesn't go through, but we're planning as though it's going to. Um,
Yeah.
we're positioned, we can move volume all over the place, but it doesn't mean we're going to be able to do it and make money. So
Yeah.
we got to tell that story. And frankly, it's difficult to do it in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I think I get the same, the same challenges because we use a lot of offshore different parts and pieces that go into our manufacturing process. So, yeah, we're doing the same thing that you're doing,
Yeah.
which is trying to figure out, okay, what if this happens, what do we do, and if that happens, so all the different planning and what have you. And I think that for us at least, having some level of stability is good. When these things happen in a short time, it's very difficult. These environmental hits, especially for us. We're a small company. We get, we don't have a lot of resources to be able to address some of these things. So
The
it does
impacts,
make it hard. Yeah.
I mean, the impact's the same though, right? So like,
Yeah.
I gave you one very simple example, but like, even our sales for January are terrible. And a lot of it, this is my opinion here. And again, it's only my opinion. But a lot of it's due to the markets don't like volatility. They
They
just
don't like
simply
it.
don't.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mid to large size businesses need to be able to plan 2, 3 years out. And if you can't tell from one day to the next whether there's going to be a 25 or 50% tariff on something, that's just unstable. And that's
Yeah.
kind of the issue here. So, I think our sales are down because of that.
Yeah.
Um, but I don't really know. I can't get a read on it. So, anyways, I mean, we'll be fine. January is always kind of weird, anyways. Doesn't help with the storms and the fires and everything else. But the point is, like, what you said is, again, it's instability. Imagine a multinational that has to build a factory that gets that it's a capital project with a 10 or 15-year horizon. No
Yeah.
one's thinking like, oh my God, I got to nearshore something to Mexico, and 3 weeks from now they're going to get tariffed out of business.
Yeah.
So everybody's got everything on hold until this all shakes out.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now,
Yeah.
now I will say the one thing I will say, and I know we're running out of time here, everybody's very optimistic. Like we are too, very optimistic for 2025, but got to get past some of this stuff.
Yeah, I think you're the same. I'm in the same position. I feel the same way.
Yeah.
That we're super optimistic, but there's some real uncertainty in the short term.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah, yeah, and that's
That's
what we deal with. We're dealing with these environmental impacts that we have to deal with as CEOs is to
it. Yep.
steer the ship around these big obstacles that just sort of show up. So
That's it.
yeah,
I'd say the nice thing is it's not inherent to just me,
yeah,
but I don't want to be in the middle of it. I'd rather it be on China and just stay away from the maquiladoras. You
yeah,
got the two
yeah.
largest trading partners in the States with Canada and Mexico, and they're in the middle of it right now. So
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. So, I mean, the decisions have been made over the years to create these systems where these businesses now exist in Mexico and Canada,
it's a
and yeah,
30-year run. It's a
yeah,
30-year run. Like
yeah.
it just, yeah. Anyways, so
It's interesting.
clearly I have skin in the game here, so it's why I'm a little emotional.
Oh,
So,
absolutely, absolutely. So, what advice would you give to other entrepreneurs who are, want to take their business to the next level? What are, maybe some keys that you want to leave us with?
I get asked this question quite a bit. It really depends on the tone of the conversation. So this conversation was like enjoyable, awesome. Like love talking about this stuff. Um, Most of the time, it's the same position I say is to uh, find a really good mentor, and surround yourself with really good people. So, what's changed my life is YPO. But if your business, for example, might not qualify for YPO because it's for certain size firms, there's EO, um, uh, which is for smaller size businesses, and they have these mentorship programs. And for mid-sized, smaller mid-sized startups, um, you can get mentorship there. But to find somebody to mentor you and give you advice so you don't trip over the most obvious obstacles that people have already experienced or make the same mistakes that people that have gone down these paths have experienced. And it might not be business, it could be with your family too. So it's all kind of those same things. So to me, that's kind of the best thing I could say.
Yeah, yeah, 100% agree. Get a mentor, get good people around you. Yeah, that's going to help you overcome all the challenges of running a business and trying to grow a business. And in this environment, it's tough, it's hard,
Yeah.
and you have to have perseverance, and you got to have people you can rely on. So, such a great piece of advice, Randy. I want to thank you for coming on the show. How can people find out more about you and your company?
LinkedIn, Randy Carr, the company's World Emblem. But you're welcome to connect with me on LinkedIn and just ask me any question you want. I'm always on, happy to answer anything. And the website's worldemblem.com. And again, like all my information's out there, and I'm always happy to talk about this stuff.
Well, fantastic. We're going to put links in the show notes for all of Randy's resources. And again, if there's something that's you heard from Randy and you're interested, maybe you want to know more about YPO or EO, he knows knows a little bit about it. So reach out to him. We're going to put the links in the show notes. Randy, I want to thank you for taking time out of your busy day to talk to us on Deep Leadership. I really appreciate it.
John, it's my pleasure. I appreciate you having me.
Yeah, thanks again. Well, that is it for today. Thank you for listening to Deep Leadership. If you like this podcast, please subscribe and share so we can continue to build a world with better bosses. Until next time, this is John Rennie saying take care and lead well.